Hello, I'm Lane. Yeah, I, I feel like I should find some good pirate themed stuff. I swear I've got something to show off.
I mean, you got that Cthulhu head in the back. That's pretty
Yeah, I got
pirate.
the Cthulhu head over there. I've got a dragon skull. I don't know if it shows up that well on the other side, and then a coup head on the door. But uh, somewhere I've got my kids have some pirate stuff. I know I've got laying around.
And
Hold on,
last,
I have a
but certainly not
5-year-old calling me. I'll be right back.
right. Crystal.
Yeah, so I'm Crystal. I found the server through through Joel on Instagram. I'm really looking forward to this system. I got certified last year or earlier. Yeah, no, last year, end of last year as a therapeutic game master. So I love seeing all the different kinds of role playing games that, like, I just love seeing how many ways that people can come up with rules and come up with systems. So I love it all. I'm excited.
That's fantastic. And I would like to talk to you some more time about how that is a thing, because that's really interesting.
Totally.
For all of those who are still here, I know Joel's got kids, and you. Sorry if they transmit, but my kids will be going to bed soon. They'll be crying upstairs, so I'll try to mute if it gets too loud. They might go to bed without. Yeah. Anyway, those in Roll20, I'm gonna go ahead and hand out a handout because that's what they're called. This is just very typical rules. Like, this is what I would say is like the bread and butter for helpful tips and things to keep in mind as we get started here, especially with those of us that don't know each other. First rule is always respect others. I think this is just rule zero in a lot of situations where it's don't be a jerk. If there are situations where characters are aggressive towards one another or opposed to one another or at odds with one another, that needs to be like out of character, like, hey, my character disagrees with your character, so that no feelings start to get messed up. Second, respect GM decisions. I've already said it a few times. It's a new system to me. I've never really dived deep into it, so I will be making mistakes and I will be making judgment calls on the fly, and you're just gonna have to kind of go with it. Like, if you have a rule that you know and you say, hey, this is actually the rule, that's fine. You can announce the rule to me, but I might override that rule, and that's gonna have to be okay in those situations. And then we can talk about it after the game. Next rule, don't interrupt. This is a hard one for me, so I apologize beforehand. But I get very excited and ADHD, and I'm just like, oh, blah, 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 I got to spit it down now before I forget it. Do your best to not interrupt each other. Focus on the game. This rule to me is more important in person, but it has a lot to do with presenting yourself in a way to where you're being focused. Where if you aren't focused, maybe mute yourself if you're watching something else or doing something else or rolling dice. That's my pet peeve, is rolling dice and making the clicky clacky sounds while you're trying to play a game. If you have to do that, you have to fidget or something, you can mute yourself so you can do that. Voice concerns and desires. It's very important that if you have ideas, we talk about them, and if you have something that's affecting you in any way, we get it dealt with as soon as possible. Next, no sex, no torture, no blank. This is a blank where you can add anything specifically that you do not want to have in the game. For me, I'd also add to this general sexism. I think with the theme of pirates, there's a lot of superstitions and stuff that are about women and stuff. We're going to ignore all those. And we're also going to ignore sexual content in general and no torture. In addition to that, I'd also like to add language is never really an issue for me until it's repetitive. I'm pretty good with maybe one F-bomb a game, but if that's an issue for you, maybe try to reel it in a little bit. So, like, language is my thing. I like to keep these games at least PG-13 normally, but with the graphic violence, it can push the limits there. But if there's anything that you want to put there, make sure let's go ahead and take a round now. If there's anything else you want to add to it, we can do that now. And then if you don't want to say it, you can just say it whenever it happens, and just we'll maybe like raise your crossed fingers if you have them, and if not, just like DM me or put in the chat like an ellipses or something, and we will move on. We will ignore that scene and continue. But real quick around the room, anyone have anything that they need to add to this before we get started?
I feel like it is included under some of the noise things you said, but my specific one, and I know like old school D&Ders have a hard time with this because it's kind of tradition, but chewing noises. Chaboy's got misophonia real bad, and I will be forced to hang up and leave the meeting for chewing noises. So I apologize. I know crunchy snacks are a long hallowed tradition of D&D. The nice thing about mics, like you said, Jake, is you can mute. So that's the only thing. It's literally the only request I have is chewing noises.
Good to know. I do have coffee, so there might be some slurpy noises, but I'll try to keep that under control.
Slurping is fine unless you're drinking iced coffee and you have ice in it, and you're an ice chewer.
Nope.
Because I'll throw hands over chewing ice.
Good to know.
But thank you. That's my only thing. Thanks, guys.
Anyone else?
I don't feel comfortable. I don't like any romantic content, like any kind of like. That's just something I don't. That and then like harm to infant animals and infant people. I don't like that.
Okay. Noted.
Unless it's like not actually an infant, because right now Caleb's like, you hypocrite. It's not actually an infant, Caleb. It was a demon. It's not real.
Our kids.
It was a room full of babies.
They were
that
not
just
babies.
wanted love.
They were demons, Caleb. We've had this argument. They were demons that looked like babies.
They
All right.
were baby demons.
It was supposed to play on your emotions.
Thank you for sharing, Ross. Anybody else have anything to add? All right. This topic specifically is always open. So if you have anything that you need to add to this list that you didn't know you had, you can always DM me and we will get it taken care of. If you say something, it happens. Speak carefully. My pet peeve is saying, I'm going to jump. And then I'm like, oh, you're going to jump? And they're like, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. Oh, okay. And this is anticlimactic for everybody else. If you have something you want to do, take a second, think about it before you say it out loud, because once you say it out loud, it becomes canon, at least for a second, an instant. And then having to instantly retcon that can take the suspense and thrill out of the moment. And sometimes just take the game to a standstill as we all now wait as you contemplate your decision of whether or not you're going to do it. But that doesn't mean that everything you say has to be something that your character says. It could be something that you say out of character. So just speak carefully is the takeaway from that. And then extra advice, bring your character to life. This can be difficult at first with new characters, but slowly and surely we might be able to build those up quickly. Do stuff, be proactive. The way I love to run games is very sandboxy in nature, and the more that you interact with the world, the more the world reacts to you, and the story kind of comes from that interaction and that reaction of the chemicals that you guys induce in the world. So being proactive is very important. It's more than just saying yes to the mission. It's doing things with your character, being interactive with other players, doing those kind of things. Scheme often, dice might fail, but good plans don't roll. If you come up with a great idea, I might make up a rule for it on the spot. We might have a whole different mini game that we come up with to resolve something that I never even thought of being a thing. Opposite of that, you might have a great idea that just happens immediately, and we don't even have to roll for it. You want to look like a badass because you jump off the mast and sail down on thing. If I can see that there's very little risk in it, I'll just probably give you the good thing. Like, why do I have to take that away? Why risk it? You can have good things, and you don't have to roll for them. Ask questions, take notes. Ask questions is going to be very important because what I'm going to use as a tabletop is going to be very limited. If we need to improv a map real quick, we can, but this will be mostly theater of the mind. So asking questions, clarifications, where's this at, where am I, how is this, where's that at, those kind of, like, being aware is going to be a lot of communication there. Taking notes, I'm not really, if you take notes, cool. If you don't, then I'm not going to say you remember that if you actually can't remember it. You know what I mean? We'll have to kind of, your character and you will be in sync with not remembering at that point. Embrace failure. this is going to be a very lethal game. Morkborg is an apocalyptic setting where your character is meant to die. It's just a story of how it happens. And Pirate Borg is based off of that game. So, in a lot of ways, this is just the end of your character's story. And you kind of have to embrace it when your character dies early. And that's just going to be a part of this game. And I'll apologize for that up front because that has a feel bad for me, but there can be some catharsis in that too, so we'll try to work it out. But first failure doesn't mean instant death. There could be lots of different ways. We have crippling fights that you barely pull out of. Fight dirty, retreat, survive. There will be things that are beyond deadly in this game. There will be things that there are insurmountable odds, and you don't have to face every wall head on. In fact, I would recommend thinking of any possible way to get around the wall, under the wall, through the wall. You know, there's lots of different ways to go around a wall, as Dora the Explorer can tell you. So, being thinking about the world as a real place and more than just an obstacle to overcome will help you too. Being able to talk to NPCs, even super creepy NPCs, might be helpful than just stabbing them in the face because they're scary looking. Treat the world like a real place and you might live longer. The answer is not in your character sheet. As we're going to get into shortly, your character sheets are very limited to what they even offer in this game. And I think you could probably fit everything you need on an index card, so I wouldn't be too worried about looking up your character sheet for your answers. The answers to these games will be in your creativity and in your luck. With that, I'm going to go ahead and figure out how to do some screen share. And screen share this. There we go. Alright, so everyone should be able to see the Pirate Borg PDF there, and if you can't, let me know. We'll have to do some troubleshooting, but everyone should be able to see it. Everyone see it?
Yep.
And just alright. Pirate Borg is pretty cool. We're not gonna beat around the bush. We're all gonna kind of get into it here. Let's see. This line right here is probably the best phrase in the entire book. Perhaps you were once a decent person, but that was a long ago. In another place. You're now a lowlife, scoundrel, a pirate. Follow these steps to discover your vile nature. The story I really want to tell is a crew rather, of pirates, and we can discuss this in depth later on. But a crew of pirates who have had the worst luck in the world, and every chance they get at some type of bounty, booty, or claim, it always gets taken away. They always just have unfavorable wins. They always have challengers beat them to the point, and they always lose every fight. They've lost vessels. They've lost crewmen. These are people who are like the sails that have been worn and weathered. They are nearing their end, and they're just desperate for something to hold on to. And that's the story I really want to tell, and that's the kind of theme that I think that this game really can latch onto. So the first thing is your ability modifiers. They're very similar to D&D. We're going to roll a d20, and you're going to add a modifier or subtract a modifier depending on what you roll for your stats. And that's pretty plain and simple. It's not too complicated. The good thing about this game is it's very minimal. There are, hang on, I gotta zoom in just a little bit. So it goes from -3 to +3, and that's the biggest numbers you should ever have to add. So it's nice because a d20 +3 or d20 -3 is a lot easier than some of the insane modifiers you get in D&D. Rounds, combat rounds are 6 seconds. This is very similar to D&D. Movement. I'm going to kind of use zone movement as we're talking about where things are. There's going to be close, that's everything that you can get into in one round. Near, which is something that you might have to move for an entire round to get to. And far away, which is something that you might have to move multiple rounds to get to. To kind of think of orientation that way as more of abstract than just the tacticalness that D&D brings. Resting, short rest, you get to recover 1d4 hit points. Long rest, which is a overnight rest, you get 1d8 hit points. If you have no food or drink, you restore 0 hit points. Let's see, what else did I want? Morale. So a big thing about this is pirates are really good at tactics of scaring other crewmen and other people into submission. Just if you scare them away, maybe we won't have to fight anyway. If you look tougher than you are, sound tougher than you are, you might be able to fight off bigger fish. That's a pretty good pirate tactic. So the game actually has morale in here. Monsters have different morale stats, and killing their leader, getting the group to halfway eliminated, or an enemy only has 1/3 of its HP, they have to make morale tests. So that will be the one dice roll that we'll have to do pretty often if you guys are successful in challenging your opponents. Basically, this is never. You will rarely have fights to the death unless the dice say so. Normally, if you get the upper hand, your opponents will flee if they can. Hit points. So your hit points is 1d10 starting at level 0, which will be 1d10 plus your toughness, and each class will have different modifiers as well. But 1d10 is pretty nice because you start with 1 hit point, and you might just not make it but one sword swing into the battle before you're down. So if you're reduced to 0 hit points, you are broken. This is a status that is a little bit different than D&D because you have a moment where when you are broken, you roll 1d4, which you have a 1/4 chance of instantly dying. The other one is you fall unconscious for 1d4 rounds, and then you wake up with 1d4 HP. Roll 1d6. And so you have like these different stages of being injured or just instantly dying. But yeah, there's a 1d4 chance of dying when you get to 0 HP, so you have to be very careful. If you get to 0 HP, you're dead. Is dead, you is. So initiative, a little bit different than what I'm used to. Player turns are unit, like you guys act as one cohesive unit. So it's players versus enemies, and there's not like your turn, then your turn, your turn, and then enemy's turn, then your turn, and then enemy's turn. No, it's just players and then enemies, or enemies and then players, and we'll roll a d6 every time for initiative. And then you guys can kind of decide for yourselves how that will go. Whether you want to go first of your turn, you want to go last in your turn, or you know how you guys want to decide that. That's up to you guys. If you guys want to roll for it yourselves just for the sake of it, you can. But that will be up to you guys to kind of keep track of whose turn it is until everyone has had their turn, and then it'll be Monster's turn. Or Monster's turn will go first. So be very crucial. Monsters might just go first if you start fights. So keep that in mind. Criticals. You can double your damage. Double your damage. Also, armor protection is reduced 1 tier. So in this game, armor, there is no like armor class. So there's not a number they have to hit that can go up with their armor. No, the number that you always have to hit is 12, unless the circumstances are dramatic enough for me to raise it higher than that. But it's usually gonna be 12, maybe 13. So 12 is like the typical number that you ever have to hit, and armor is actually a die that you roll after you've been hit to reduce the number of damage that you've been dealt. So I think the typical armor is D2. So if you take 1d6 damage, then you roll D2 and subtract D2 from the damage that you take. So you can lower the armor protection of your target by 1 tier whenever you roll a natural 20. So if they have tier 3, I think it's a D6 that they get to subtract, and then you will lower it down to D2, so it'll only be a D4 instead of a D6. So we'll go over that whenever it comes up. It's going to happen whenever you roll a nat 20. If you roll a natural 20 on a defense roll, you get a free attack. A fumble, if you roll a natural 1, the weapon breaks or is lost. I don't like this rule. This is the only rule I don't like in this entire game. To have a weapon break or be lost, you run out of options to do anything. The game kind of halts to a standstill. So what I would prefer is if you roll a natural 1, we can have like maybe you drop your weapon or something, but I would rather on a natural 1 you have to narrate the punishment for rolling a natural 1 is you have to narrate exactly what happens. Like, why did your attack not work? And that can be very frustrating, because in the moment you're like, I just missed, and you just like, screw it, I don't even want my turn anymore. You can have it, but you have to actually take the time to narrate what happened, and that can be a challenge and so on. So if you roll a fumble on defense, the PC takes double damage, and the armor is reduced 1 tier. When armor is damaged, penalties to strength and agility are not modified. We're not going to worry about that. So here's the armor tiers. Tier 3, 1d6, Tier 2, 1d4, Tier 1, 1d2, and Tier 0 is 0. Anybody have any questions so far?
Is this a PDF or a document that you can or have shared with us? If it's something that you paid for and don't want to share, that's completely fine. Like, but I didn't know if it was something that.
This is a document that I did pay for, and yeah,
Fine. Yeah.
it is copyright, so like I can't just like share it willy nilly.
Well, I don't want to steal from the artist, so no, that's completely fine.
Okay.
Thought I'd ask.
I can send a link to where you can get it. If that helps. Hope I just
That would
closed
be
the window.
great, actually, if you don't mind.
So gaining experience. Honestly, I don't think we're gonna gain experience. Because this is basically just a one shot split in 2 for time's sake. So I don't think we're gonna worry about anything about gaining features or anything yet. This is basically we're just gonna dip our toes in the water of what the system has to offer, and I think it's best if we leave that up to be explored later. But basically, you just roll a d6 to add hit points, and you get to the best part is you get a new feature. But the features that you gain on your classes is really cool that you roll for them. You don't pick them. And then once you roll every number on the die, then you have every option there is to get, and that's max level, right? So it's kind of funny. But then you can roll the same one multiple times, and it gets better. But all right, so let's go ahead and get into the classes. The classes are unique, and the selling point for me of what makes this game so good. The Brute. So the Brute is like your typical fighter class, right? Ross, can you go ahead and read this paragraph up top for me?
Can you zoom in one more time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot better. When you're not bashing, smashing, slashing, or crashing, you're well, that's pretty much actually all you know how to do. You can't use relics, you can't use arcane rituals, but your muscles are basically magic.
Yep. So they're pretty unique in the way that they can fight better than most people. Their base ability that you get is you have a trusted weapon, which is a D6, and it never breaks, but can be dropped. I'm gonna upgrade that since I don't like the fumble rule, where if you roll nat 1, you just don't have to drop your weapon. That would be how that rule would work because otherwise it's useless. But you have a weapon that you can't, it's trusty and it's useful. I like that it has a name. What's your name? So that's the one caveat. You have to name your weapon. But then in addition to that, you roll a
I'm sorry.
a d6, and the d6 you get one of these abilities here. One of them is you can literally burp and it hurts your enemy, which I think is funny.
I think old boyo here is carrying around an anchor, just a whole anchor.
Yep, just an entire anchor I'm gonna hit you on the head with. The funny thing is it's only a d8 in damage. Like in D&D it'd be like 2d12 or something. But a d8 in damage is quite a bit when you only have 1 hit point. So moving on, the next class is the Rapscallion, which is the closest thing to a rogue in this game. Rogues are pretty unique in their abilities. Some of them actually take use of a deck of physical cards, which Roll20 has cards if we want to use digital cards, but also if you have a deck of cards too, that's fine. We'll just kind of go with that, how it comes. But not all their abilities even use it anyway. But basically, any of your typical roguey abilities would be found here. Next is the Buccaneer. They're your gun guy. They like to shoot. They have an ability called Fast Reloader, which means you can reload in 1 turn instead of 2, which it normally takes. They also have like the best style, I'd say, in the game. They get a D10 for clothing and a D12 for a hat, so they get the drip, as the young kids would be saying. Next is a swashbuckler. This is another fighter slash rogue type class. I think they're really unique in some of their abilities, to be like, because even like their fighting styles are ostentatious, and scurvy scallywag and inspiring leader. They're very flavorful. Uh, Next class is the closest thing to a cleric, which is a zealot. And they're all in old wordy text, which is really fun. But they basically get to heal or curse or divine light. They have lots of fun magic, but they're zealots, so uh, they're very committed to their clergy, which is really unique. Next is the sorcerer. Sorcerers are basically like what I think of when I think of like actual voodoo type magic. They got an ability called Deadhead, where they summon a flying head that does damage for them. They also have the most useful games or useful abilities in the game called Protection, which is really cool. The next one is the Haunted Soul. This is basically your warlock. Um, and then lastly, there's the optional class of a tall tale. So a tall tale is either a merfolk or a sentient animal. We don't have to use this class, but it could be something to add some levity to this otherwise brutal game. You don't get a pick; you have to roll for it. So you might be a merfolk, you might be an animal. I don't know. It's something. It's something, all right.
Oh, I'm so
Uh,
excited.
and lastly, the weapons. So most weapons in this game are D4. The really good weapons are D6, and the fantastic weapons are D8. But muskets are 2D6. So buccaneers have the best damage output, but it takes them 2 rounds to shoot because you have to take a whole round to reload. Um, and that's the buccaneer, and regular people take 2 rounds to reload. So you get a lot of damage, but it takes you a while to keep it going. We're not going to get into all the gear and stuff. The next one of the best rules in the game, Devil's Luck. Devil's Luck is how like the only way you're not going to die. Basically, you basically get extra lives in the sense of Devil's Luck. So each class has a different die that they get. Most of them are D2, but some classes, the more spelly classes, have higher dice, so like a D4. You have a D2 usually of luck points that you get, and the game doesn't really specify if hang on, is after resting, right? So, when depleted, roll your class's designated die to regain that much luck after resting at least 6 hours. The way I'm probably going to run this is at the beginning of the game. We'll roll at the beginning of the game, and then we'll roll at the beginning of the next session. So you'll have 2 different rolls that you roll with. But you'll have that many luck points that you could spend to use any of these 5 abilities. Deal max damage with 1 attack. So that's nice. You could basically choose to auto crit. Of course, it doesn't lower their damage, or lower their armor, but it does something. Lower the damage dealt to you by 1d6. That's literally like that could multiply your life by 3 if it is useful. But you can also not. So it's really you can also use it to reroll. You can use it to lower one DR test by -4. So DR test, that's what this uses as challenge rating. So whenever I say the typical roll is 12, you can make it automatically 8 to go with. And like I said, the rolls will be modified depending on the situation. It might be easier than 12. It might be harder than 12, depending on how it goes. But yeah, you can lower the test by D4. So in those clutch moments where you really need a roll to work, it can spend a point for that. The last one is neutralize a crit or fumble. The way this is also useful is you can neutralize a crit to your character. Like if your character got crit on by a monster, that you can spend a Devil's Luck to say, actually, no, I don't. Which is very useful, especially when you have really good armor. Or you can also use it to cancel your fumble. then you get into more character creation stuff. There are random tables to roll for your physical ailments, distinctive flaws, idiosyncrasies, and unfortunate incidences and conditions. So like these are like things that you can add which make your character very complex and have lots of things wrong with them, which can be very interesting. Magical items. I'm gonna scroll through that fast so you don't spoil any of those. Arcane rituals. So like spell scrolls are basically like these super complex things that take multiple rounds to manifest. You can see for d6 rounds, creatures get 1, 2, 4. So there's a lot of like fun things to be found, but arcane rituals will always take an action to use, and I think there might be some classes that can't use them. I'm not familiar with that. We haven't really looked into it. We'll cross this bridge when we get there. Mystical mishaps. So there are rules in here for things that happen when spells don't work, but we might not have any spellcasters in here. There's a whole page for alchemy, which can be fun, and then we get into monster stat blocks. So I shared in the Discord the character generator, which you can use to randomly pick a character, or randomly roll to your character. You can also pick a class, and we'll build your character step by step. It's kind of like however you guys want to do things. If you have like an idea for what kind of pirate you want to play, we can go that route. Does anyone have any questions so far?
I just want to make sure I understand the luck. Basically, is 1 for 1, like of that pentagram. If you roll a D2, because your class grants a D2 luck, and you get a 1, you have 1 luck point, and you can choose at any point to do one of those pointed stars if you want to. Okay.
Yep. You have 1. If you roll 1 on your D2, then you would have 1 point for the duration of the game to spend on whatever you want of those 5 things, or nothing. You can always save it too. But in my experience of playing this by myself, I have never finished a session with anybody having any luck points, because otherwise people are dead. But also you don't want to burn too fast. It's my favorite thing about it because it is a very push your luck kind of a situation, and the flavor is really creepy and on point of devil's luck. Like Davy Jones himself went to some luck for the situation. But yeah, any of those 5 abilities, you can go ahead and use it for that. Yes, good question. Anybody else have anything? All right, we'll go ahead and get right into character creation. How do we want to do this? Do you guys want to everyone roll? Do we want to just use the character generator and be like instantly done with character creation? Do we want to actually get gritty with what our characters are like? Does anyone have any concepts that they're really into? Any of the classes that really stand out to them or anything?
I personally, because I geek out over this, I'd be more than happy to go through person by person and build character or whatever, as opposed to, the automatic thing is fine, but I like building characters, so I'm happy to do that. I don't have any strong concept in my head, but I can come up with one real quick.
Okay. All right.
I agree.
Well,
every time, like, I always think, oh, it's going to be a dragon. Every time, like, Caleb, we did it for Spyhander, and it was like surprisingly fun. And it's kind of like nail biting when you're rolling dice and you don't know what you're going to get and you're watching your friends do it. It's something I think we've missed out on, actually, when we just kind of roll up with D&D Beyond. Like, we're kind of lost that.
all right. Do we want is anyone like pressured for time? Like, I don't want like to run out of time. So that's the thing. Like, if we start to run low on time, I want to make sure that everyone has a character by the end of tonight. So that's my only concern. So let's go ahead and do this. Is everyone okay? First of all, Caleb, you've been quiet for a long time, so I want to make sure that you're on board with this because I just saw that you were using the random generator earlier. Do you have a character? Do you want to roll for stats? Do you care?
I am pretty happy with Spasm, who was
Okay.
the very first person that I randomly generated upon opening the random generator.
Spasm.
He kind of works for me. He's a simple man, but very my style of guy. And I appreciate his name. His name, like everything else about him, is pretty great.
You should get a
So-
bird, though.
I would not object.
Okay. Can you tell us about Spasm? You have a character named Spasm.
Sure, I have a character named Spasm, who is named Armando Meveris by his parents, but everyone just calls him Spasm, obviously. And he's a rapscallion, which is the thiefy class, specifically a burglar. So he has lockpicks and can pickpocket and disarm enemies, which I think is neat. That looks like a good go-to move. And anyway, what really endears me to him is that his background is he is an orphan, and he has a longing for new parental figures, and he has also died, but hell itself did not want him. So I have this unloved, unwanted pirate who smells bad and also has disloyalty. And he just wants to be loved, man. He just wants to fit in somewhere,
Fantastic.
and that's what he's got going on. That's
Alright.
Spasm.
So, do you see where you have your luck die,
Yes.
and so you have a D2?
Yes.
Okay, and you see where you might have a armor die. Do you have any armor die?
I
Here?
don't believe I do. According to this, my clothes are common clothes and a
Alright.
bandana.
So
So
you
I
don't
presume
have
they're not conferring upon me much armor.
Or not, indeed. With your common clothes, I imagine that you're just wearing basic sailor slops. What color is your bandana?
Red.
Okay. Nice. And what's your hit points as of right now?
3. I'm rocking those big numbers.
Yeah. 3 hit points. All right, we have one character. I love Spasm so
I would
far.
also like to note, because I find it flavorful, the weapon that I rolled is a Marlin spike, which I did have to look up a bit. It basically is like a 1 foot long metal spike.
Nice.
And it's not an otherwise particularly useful weapon. It's just a basic weapon, but I find it very flavorful. And that
Nice.
is Spasm.
Do you have a useful, or what's it called, interesting item? You have like a treasured items or something like that.
A collection of seashells and rocks.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. All right, everyone else ready to get your characters going? Are we in agreement that we're going to just roll for them?
Yes.
Spasm was instantly used by the generator, and he turned out great, but we might be clicking that button all night long to get as lucky. So let's go ahead and roll.
So wait, sorry, Jake.
You're good.
Remind me again. So like I went and bought it on Kickstarter, so I'm looking at the.
Oh, nice.
I'm looking at the thing here.
Do
we roll for class, or do we pick a class and then roll everything else out, or?
I'm good with either way. I think it's more in flavor of the game if you roll for it, but if you have one that you want, then you go ahead and pick it, because we're not playing 2 sessions, so I don't want you to play something you don't want to play.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. I'll play anything. My eye was caught by the tall tale, but I'm happy to roll for a character as well. You as the DM, you just tell me what you want to do for the game.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and roll for classes.
Okay.
But if you get one you don't like, you just substitute for Tall Tale. All right.
Thank you. That's very kind.
So the first thing we're gonna do is everyone's gonna roll 3d6. And then using the table below, right here in the center area, you're gonna adjust your result to the modifier number. And you repeat this 6 times, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. I can't count. 5 times for your stat, and that's all your stats. That's that simple.
Okay, so we roll a d6, 3d6 for our class.
3d6 for each of your stats, and then we'll get your class next.
Gotcha.
I got mine. I got a +1 to agility, +2 to presence and strength. +0. That'd be a swashbuckler?
So the way I'm gonna roll it is you'll get that additional ability to whatever your thing is up to the max. So if you have a +2 and then you take one that has a +1, you have total +3. But if you have a +3 and then you take one that has a +1, it still stays a +3.
What would you say would be the most useful person with +2 to presence and strength?
I don't know. We can go back and look through them in a minute. Once everyone has done that and used the table, then we can move on. But I will make sure that everyone has the table there present. So I can adjust the rolls.
You can be a sewer rat.
Yeah.
It's the dream.
I'm actually waiting on my physical copy of this book, and I know Kickstarter's gonna take a while, but I'm so excited. Like, I will love this game so much more when I can physically hold it and look at it and just.
The glorious thing is you explain the rules, but most of it was artwork. Like you could really fit the rules on one page. To be honest.
Yep.
The artwork is insane. I'm like looking at my PDF now, and I'm.
I mean,
the whole thing the hardback copy. It only costs $35 on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
That's wild.
I'm probably gonna get it. You are gonna bankrupt me.
The artwork is what sold me on this game. I'm like, yeah, it's lethal, but look how beautiful it is.
Yeah. Well, you don't. I mean, if you don't want it to be the thing is that it's BX. So like, if you want it to be less lethal, you have more luck.
Yeah.
It actually
BS,
really.
Like the game is just BS. Like
No, it's BX. It's basic and expert. That's
I know
the thing. Like group side, initiative and the stats. It's all BX. So.
All right.
So the order that we roll them in is agility, presence, strength,
toughness, spirit. Yep.
Okay. So we roll 3d6 4 times.
5 times.
Yes, that is 5. Yes, you're right.
I thought it was 6 and it was 5. D6 5. So once you have those, we can move on. I want to make sure that I actually missed a step of how to get people on board. Also, I forgot to mention. So I went over. Man, I got so excited about character creation. I forgot a whole bunch of stuff. So, what's expected of you guys versus me? So, I want to make sure that we're all in agreement that like if you can't make it, just let us know. Like if I don't care why you can't show up, if it's something they're dealing with, I don't care what it is. If you're not gonna make it, just communicate that. Like, hey, I'm not gonna be there. That way, that's out of the way. And because if you ghost, it's disrespectful to everybody involved. Especially when we can just be waiting for you and you never show up. That's real feel bad for everybody. So no ghosting is my one rule that I'd add to that. And what's expected of me, I'm going to be trying to stick to the rules to the best of my ability. I'm not gonna get it right. I'm gonna mess up. I'm gonna apologize for that at the beginning. But I'm gonna do my best. And my ultimate goal, even more than getting the rules right, is making sure everyone has fun. Because if you're not having fun, then what's the point? That I almost glossed over, but before we leave tonight, we also have to schedule the next game too. Let's go back to this. So for your container, which is in D&D you always get a pack that carries all your stuff. In this game, you roll a d6, so you might get a big item or a small item, which I think is really funny because you have like a bucket. You probably can't fit that much in a single bucket. But
so good.
If you could get a large sea chest, and I imagine it literally being like you have to use both your hands to like lug it around, but that's what you have, so it's what my mama left me, so it's my only chance to carry my goods. And then you have a D12 for your cheap gear, and then you have a D12 for your fancy gear. And then it's fun. There's nested tables, so if you get a 12 on the D12, you get a nested table of D10, which is really cool.
I request that Caleb pay some kind of price so he can have a bird. He needs a bird. It can be a nasty bird. It can be like a really crappy one, like a really
a nasty bird.
What if
just like a street pigeon?
No, what if it's a parrot but all the feathers are plucked? And so it's like a naked parrot, and then its name is Onions, and it's like
And it has anxiety.
And it
I
has
don't
anxiety.
like how excited you are about this.
What if one of us rolled for awakened parrot?
I'm
What if
down.
you get to be onions then? That's pretty great.
I think that would not, in fact, be pretty great.
No.
I would like to specifically request to not be Caleb's parrot.
It's not that anything is
His
wrong with
featherless, anxious
onions
parrot.
per se. It's just that's how they make parrots here.
It's the naked mole rat of parrots.
Yeah.
Pug of parrots.
That's
Existence is pain.
Once everyone has their items rolled and noted, that we can continue. Everyone good?
okay. No, I'm sorry. My ADHD is kicking in. I rolled my 5 things. What am I rolling now?
You're rolling 1d6 for your container type.
Okay, what page is that on?
I'm sorry. I have to zoom out now to see what page it is.
13.
13. Thank you, Lane.
13.
Got mine here.
I'm rolling a
A D6.
D6 for container. Okay.
Yep.
Nice.
Jake, could you, if I give you a number, could you tell me what I roll for a random relic
Yes.
on page 49?
Yes. See if I can get there.
No worries.
Oh, you see the other games I've downloaded too. Oh, I skipped it. Go back up, back up, back up. Relic. All right. What'd you get?
9.
9. You have mermaid scales. You can breathe.
Amazing.
You can breathe underwater for 1d4 hours.
Damn.
So to use your artifacts, it takes an action to use, and then I believe you have to roll a presence check versus a d12 to activate it. And then if you fail, it just doesn't. So there's just a chance of just not working. But if it does work, then it does the effect. So, and that's a presence. So whatever your presence is would be it'd be a presence check for that.
Sorry. Kid delay. I'll be right back.
Oh, you're good. So let me zoom back in here. Make sure everyone else gets this. I guess, Joel, you have your own, but you can make sure you roll off of all 3 of those tables. Get your
cheap gear and fancy
gear.
cheap gear and fancy gear. Roger that.
And Lane has his own too, so I'm just keeping track of Ross and Crystal as far as make sure everyone's good. Go ahead and roll 1d10 plus your toughness for your hit points. And if you have a negative toughness modifier, you would subtract it, but no less than 1. Can't start out with 0 hit points because you start out dead. I guess that's what Spasms did, but we're not doing that. Not starting out
Okay,
dead.
I survived dying.
All right.
Although it was very demoralizing.
All right. So your armor is based off of your class. So next we'll pick your classes. So I believe it's a D6 because if we're using the tall tales, then that would make 6. Oh nope, I was wrong. 7, 8. So it's 1d8 for your class if you want to randomly roll it. You don't have one that particularly sticks out to you.
Sorry, what do I do? My hit points?
1d10 plus your toughness modifier.
Plus my toughness modifier. That's not great. I have a -3 toughness.
Oh, I'm a brute. That's great. Can I get the stats real quick? Let's see. Plus 1. Plus
Yep,
1 tough.
Zoom in a little bit.
Minus 1 presence. And plus, what's the cursor say? Minus 1 spirit.
Yep. And I was wrong. Apparently, you get a D12 instead of a D10. So if you want to re-roll your hit die, you can. I thought everyone had a D10,
good.
but I was wrong.
Okay, sorry.
So roll a D6 for class.
Boy.
It's a D8 for class if you want to also use tall tales too.
Joel, I'm taking your spot as the tank.
That's all right, man. I've played literally dozens of them, so.
All right.
Okay, so I roll a D8 for class.
Mm-hmm. and then you
Believe in you, Joel. You'll get brute.
And now I got wood.
And I got a roll for clothing.
What is 6?
I'll have to go look.
2, 3, 4,
Hat.
5. Ooh, sorcerer.
Sorcerer, yeah.
I can
Why are
be
you gonna get really?
Facilier from Princess and the Frog.
All right. So you roll. In addition to your trusted weapon, go ahead and roll 1d6 for your ability, Ross.
I got a 5. Large rusted machete, classic. Large rusted machete, and then what's the other one?
You rolled large rusted machete, and then your other one is on this side. So go ahead and roll again.
And then it says thick skinned, light armor even when you aren't. Minus D2 armor. You count as wearing light armor even when you're. So basically, I get D2 armor when I'm not wearing armor.
Yep.
Right. And then it says I have clothing. Is that at the end? Okay.
Yeah, you roll a D10. Yeah. You roll a D10 for your clothing and a D12 for hat, and each class has a different thing. And the table is actually set up so the higher you roll, like you get armor, and the lower you roll, the crappier it is. So
nice. Okay, I got that, so I'm good to go. I think.
Cool. Crystal, did you roll for class or pick a class?
So I rolled a 3 for class.
3. You get a Buccaneer. They do
Awesome.
indeed have a D10 plus toughness for hit points. They have a D2 for their Devil's Luck. Your abilities, you get +2 to your presence, -1 to your agility, and -1 to your spirit. So the modifiers cannot be above a +3 or below a -3. So adjust them accordingly. But
Okay, cool.
those are what you got. And then, in addition to that, you are an expert sharpshooter, especially with muskets and rifles, skilled trackers, and survivalists. You start with a musket. Reloading takes 1 round instead of 2. When you begin, you gain experience. You roll for a feature. So, go ahead and roll for your feature in addition to your musket that you get for free. And it's just a D6.
Okay, and just a D6. Okay.
Yep.
4.
4. Focused aim. Attacks to hit an enemy already shot this combat are a D8. And then later, if you leveled up again, you can add another feature. But so basically, instead of to roll a 12 to hit an enemy, automatically you only have to roll an 8 if they've already been hit.
Perfect.
So the more you hit a target, the easier it is to hit, which is pretty cool. Especially since the musket is one of the biggest damages. So your clothing is a D10 and your hat is a D12. That's a one-time roll, but we'll go ahead and mark it down so we can all do that together at the end. Lane, what did you roll?
Okay, sorry. Was I muted there? Okay, I just rolled a D8. I got a 7. So
7. That is the Haunted Soul.
Haunted Soul. Okay. So now I need to roll a D6 to find out what kind of Haunted Soul.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. 5. Vampirism.
Nice. You have been affected by a fiendish creature. You cannot be healed by resting or normal means.
Oh man!
But drinking animal blood will restore D2 HP.
Lane, you were born for this. This
Oh
is your
my
character,
goodness.
dude.
It's so dark. Ah.
This is destiny.
This is intense. You are faster at night. Move 40 feet a turn, but feel hung over in sunlight. That is so funny.
All right.
All right. So yeah, your hit points would
gain
still be
an additional class.
what?
So roll D6 to learn your ailment, then roll a D6 to gain an additional class.
Yep. That's what it says. Let's go ahead and do that.
Okay, 5.
5 is Zealot.
Somehow that seems I'm on the nose. I don't know. Like I'm a vampire and I'm a zealot. I don't know.
You're like a clergyman who's also secretly evil, which is pretty
I
good.
didn't ask for this. All right.
Power of Christ compels you, and also me.
Yes.
So you only have a D8 for your hit points. You also have +2
Okay.
to spirit, -1 to agility, -1 to toughness. But you get a D4 devil's luck, so you're the luckiest of all of us. I mean, you do get 2 classes, so I already feel like you are the luckiest of all of us. But...
Yeah, I was like, I wasn't that lucky. I get bit by a vampire. Okay, so I roll a d8 for. Sorry, keep trying to catch up. So it's a d8 for my hit points.
Yep.
Where'd my d8 go? I just had that.
Excuse me.
Literally, a d8. I just rolled it.
And if those of you that are still in the middle of this process too, there is tables for names, so don't worry about naming your character unless you have a name already picked out. But
There we go.
there are fun
Okay,
tables too.
6 hit points.
Mhm.
And sorry, I'm a little slow tonight. Hit points 6. Devil's luck is a 4. Weapons d8. A 1.
And we'll look at those tables later too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just make sure you get your modifier adjustments. That's the main thing.
Oh, yes. So it's +2 to spirit. Okay. So I got a +1 to spirit. -1 to agility, so I'm -2 to agility. -1 to toughness, and so -1 toughness. Okay.
All right. Now you'll roll a thou dost begin. Learneth a single random 1d10 for your healing spell that you get,
Yes.
or your magic spell.
6. That would be holy protection.
Holy protection. Thou or thine ally gets -d4 to DRs to defend for 1 attack. This may be applied after the dice are rolled.
Wow.
And you get to use this 1d4 plus your spirit times a day.
Okay. 1d4 plus spirit. So should I go ahead and roll that d4?
Yeah, you can if you want.
Oh, that sucks. I rolled a 1, so 2 times per day.
Yeah. Then you have to roll for whom dost thou serve, and it's like written sideways, so it's
Yes. That's a, what is that? Is that a D6?
D6.
Okay.
Oh, come on the right side.
Okay, I got a 6.
Yes.
Is that the Prince of Darkness?
That is the Prince of
It
Darkness.
all comes together.
Oh no. Well,
This is an incredibly complete character.
Yeah. You want to know how you get vampirism? That's how you get vampirism.
The Prince of Darkness.
Moving to our sorcerer. Joel, you also have the PDF, so make sure that you don't forget to add your ability modifiers to a maximum
already
of
did that.
3 minus. Yep, okay. Your hit points, your D4 luck, and then you roll a D6 for your magic.
Yeah, so I ended up with -1 agility, +1 P. I just left it.
Presence.
Yeah, presence, +1 strength. Is there a minimum amount of toughness you're allowed to have?
-3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have -3 because I did have -4. Good. He's not very tough. And then a +2 spirit. I have 4 devil's luck.
Mm-hmm.
I rolled a 4 on a d4. And my spell, I rolled a 5, which means I get necro sleep. A living
Nice.
creature appears to fall over dead, but when they awake, they will remember everything. What does it mean? It says test spirit DR 12 to see if it falls dead, asleep for blank.
So you're gonna roll D20, aiming for a 12 or higher, for it to work. And then if it does work, then you get to roll it. It works for D2 rounds. So the way that your thing works is as you level up, you can spend souls to
Okay.
level up your thing, but we're not going to worry about that because I don't think we're going to level up this game. So
that D6 rounds and that D6 days are not going to apply to us.
correct.
Gotcha.
At least if I read it correctly in my first read through, but I haven't read through in a while, so I'll get back to you on that if I'm wrong. I will double check that though, because I might be wrong.
Okay.
All right. So everyone has their class and hit points. So let's go on and move to weapons are already featured, right? Right. Hang on. Let me go back up. Let's go back up to Buccaneers. Start out with their weapons. So Crystal's good. She has a musket. Ross,
got
you
one.
have your trusted weapon. So cleric or zealot rather.
What makes it my trusty weapon? Do I add
Your first feature, like your level 0 feature, is it's a trusted weapon.
What does it do?
It makes it to where you don't fumble with it.
Ah, okay, my bad. Let me add that.
Yeah, and in this game, fumbles usually means you don't break it, but like the game is like you break or drop, and then I say no, I don't want weapons to break, but you can drop it. And then your ability says you will only drop it, you'll never break. And I'm going to say, actually, you never drop it at all. So you just ignore
Gotcha.
fumbles with your weapon. That's what it does. So weapon, you roll a d8 for weapon. That's what it is. So Lane, did you roll a d8 for your weapon?
I did. I got a 1, so I'm going to say a Marlin Spike.
Nice.
Because that's got an edge to it, and that seems more appropriate for the Vampiric Zealot. So, Marlin Spike or Belaying Pin, I think is what it was. So.
Yep. Cool. Now everyone has their die for clothing/armor, so go ahead and roll that.
Do we all roll for a weapon?
Yes, your class has a die depending on which class you use. So you get to roll a d6. You only start with a weapon of a wooden knife or a belaying pin. That's the only weapons you're allowed to have.
I'm guessing
Sorry.
this isn't going to be like what you're leaning on there. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yes.
I imagine sorcerers are like they are in D&D, where they have one very niche thing they do and they're terrible at everything else.
You're testing my role playing abilities here, Jake, which I appreciate.
All right.
Ross knows exactly the type of character I usually play.
Yep. And you roll a
Okay.
d6 for your clothing table.
D6.
Yep. Which is where we are now.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did turn my mic on. Okay.
Clothing
we're
and
actually
then
making good
hats. This is very
I was
important.
worried when we said we're all going to roll for this. I was like, this might take a while, but doing it all in unison, I think it's actually going pretty well. Yeah, so go ahead and roll for that. You might get lucky and get some nice armor.
I got rags.
Nice. Literally, your clothes are worth nothing.
Oh
If
my
you cannot
god.
even sell them to somebody,
I've
that's
got a
how
bowling pin and rags. And I have a
Belay.
-3 toughness.
a
I'm starting
belaying
to
pin,
get the
not a
sense
bowling
that you
pin.
should avoid melee.
What's yeah. No
A
shit,
belaying
Sherlock.
pin. A belaying pin is used in ships to anchor lines, to tie off lines. It's also used to quickly release lines that you need to. A belaying pin is basically like a small stick, which kind of looks like, like those old-fashioned police clubs, batons things. I don't know.
They're called bully sticks.
That's what it looks like. That's what. But they're actually designed to go in these specific holes on ships to anchor lines and quickly release lines and
Right,
tie off lines.
like in Treasure Planet where they cut his and
Yep.
the first mate flies off into the black hole. That one.
Correct. Yep, that'd be the one. Okay, so Crystal, did you roll for your clothes? Did you get lucky? And get
Yeah,
some-
I'm common clothes, but I do have a fancy tri-corner hat. So
I tell you, they get the
Hey.
best style. That's the one thing Buccaneers get.
Well, they got to. They're the swashbuckling rogue from D&D.
Yeah.
Mine came together
right.
perfectly. I've got 12 hit points, max hit points, and then I've got a chain shirt and a metal helmet. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna be standing
right.
directly behind you, Ross.
So your metal helmet is okay. It's not Conquistador's helmet, but it is a metal helmet. So you just get automatically -1 damage from all attacks
yeah,
with
and
a metal
then
helmet.
I have to add another DR2 to any agility test, including when I
Defense.
do defense. When I do
Yep.
defense roll. Yeah.
So you're more likely to take the damage initially, but then you have a -D4 to it. So plus you got the hit points to spend anyway. let's go ahead and make sure we get this right. We don't need to worry about that. Ammo. I don't remember what the rules are for ammo. I think it's best if you just start off with 2d6 rounds, because I don't want to have to like, oh, I only get 2 shots. It's like, okay, well, if you roll poorly, then you get 2 shots. But I say 2d6 bullets. Oops, I closed that. I don't want to do that. But that's how many shots you get. We don't need to roll for bombs because no one got any bombs. There's that. What is this?
Oh, are we doing encumbrance, or is that kind of just...
I'm gonna hand wave encumbrance.
That's fine. It looks like it's based on silver pieces.
I think so, but I'm basing it off of literally what you can carry. So depending on what you rolled for your container, it's literally like whatever you think you can feasibly fit in there. Like if you rolled a potato sack, then you have a potato sack, and that's literally
awesome.
all you can carry. So you gotta think like where your bucket is where all of your life's belongings are. So it can be very unique. And I really like it. So everyone, if you haven't yet, go ahead and roll for your luck points. I imagine everyone has kind of did that with their hit points. Now we get into the flavorful stuff, the stuff where your character starts to decide who they are beyond just the titles. Your distinctive flaws, D20 for a distinctive flaw about yourself.
Oh, it's so perfect. I can't believe it's all coming together. It's a little too perfect. It's almost like, wow. Oh boy, it's really coming together. So I am a really gassy, stupid, hulking, armored person.
I don't appreciate what you're doing for the barbarian stereotype, Ross.
Am I even gonna talk like this the whole time? Like in a Cockney accent?
God damn it.
Yep, and then a D20 for your physical ailment as well.
My flaw is loud.
Physical ailment. Wait, I think I
And
already
I'm
did that,
gaunt, which my ailment is gaunt, which goes well with my rag.
Yeah, you are. I imagine you're like the most sickly looking individual. You have like this little tiny weapon. You like have these little tiny arms. I imagine you're like the
Jake,
opposite.
you have rolled me up a physically.
This is
weak.
what you needed, Joel. This isn't what you wanted, but this is what you needed right now.
I am a physically weak, spineless, loud, scrawny, poor person.
Hey, you're me in the game.
Cast
Our roles are
spells.
reversed, Joel.
Yeah, jeez.
You're not a strong, tough guy anymore. Our roles are reversed. You're gonna see what it's like to be in my shoes.
This is gonna be a learning experience. You're gonna
There's
grow
a
as a
reason.
person.
I refuse.
I didn't get the background one.
I
didn't
see your
roll that.
growth opportunity and I reject it.
I'm a sailor, a real original, but I'm also a cheater and hideously ugly. I'm like,
Yeah, you mentioned sailor.
It's not the sailor.
I'm sorry.
Is sailor like if in D&D how like fighter is kind of like the generic encompasses a lot class? Is that like what sailor would be for this game?
No, sailor is a background, so it depends on how much gold you get. So yeah, you're gonna roll a D100 for your background, and then that's what you did before this game. That's gonna decide how much money you start with. So it's just a D100, and then it's a lot of little tiny text. So I'll have to scroll down and what you get.
Explorer.
Nice.
Interesting. All right.
What's the roll for the music instrument table?
Good question. I don't know. I'll have to go look.
Sorry.
You'd think I'd like have all this memorized or something because I've wanted to play this game, but I don't.
That might be a thing of importance, page 42.
Hey, let's do.
Can we just go through all these tables and roll, Jake, or are there things we don't? Can I do idiosyncrasies and unfortunate incidents, or do you want us to wait? Are we working?
I'm sorry, I missed that. Will you say that again?
So first of all, are musical instruments something we have access to? Because I'm curious to hear that. But like the idiosyncrasies, the unfortunate incidents, the things of importance, are those things that we can just go ahead and roll?
Yeah.
What about ancient relics? Is that something we have to have a reason to have?
Yeah, whenever you roll for your gear, there's like a nested table for the relics and stuff. Relics are basically magic items in the world. So like relics are like really rare items that you find. So if you get
Oh.
lucky to roll for it, then you get one. But otherwise, you don't get one.
Oh, Crystal, you got one, Crystal?
Yeah.
Badass.
I did. I rolled something within the class that had the nested table. What do we roll for the devil's luck?
Devil's luck is dependent on your class. Yours is a D2.
Okay.
Cool.
That was the
Thank
one.
you.
I should have rolled a D4 for that. Was that right? With the zealot?
Yeah,
Okay.
the magic guys have
Hey,
D4s, and the melee/combat people have D2s.
I rolled
That's
a
how I eat.
4.
Some people have all the luck.
Yeah.
I also, it seems a little too on the nose. My idiosyncrasy I just rolled was secretly enjoy the taste of human flesh. I'm like,
There you go.
I'm
Secretly,
already a vampire. Is it really a secret? I don't know.
when you're drinking, you get nibbly.
Yeah.
Crystal, did you get your background?
Sorry, I'm checking my notes. Yes, I did get background. Yes, I grabbed background.
Okay, so did you roll for how many coins you get?
No, let me see. Okay, so I rolled former captive. I rolled 32, so it's 2d4.
32 form cap. It is 2d4 times 10, and you also gain your freedom.
My freedom, perfect. 2d10.
Ross, what did you get?
Listen, okay. Sorry, go ahead.
Ross, what did you get your background?
All of this is coming together really well until I got to that point, and now I have musician, and I made a bunch of money, and now I don't know how to reconcile this.
So
he's really stupid, except for he's like a savant with like a, and so I need to. There's like a table, I guess, for musical instruments.
Page 13. That's where it was. I was trying to look for what page it was.
My idiosyncrasy is a habitual procrastinator, which I feel attacked. But my unfortunate incident is that the last 3 ships you crewed all sank.
Huh, I got the same thing.
Uh-oh.
It's like, were we on the same boat?
This mission is well, it'd be better if we were on completely different boats.
Yeah, it's like, I'm pretty sure there were no survivors of mine, including me. That's why I'm
the same ship can't sink twice.
Who's in the gear?
Watch me.
Yeah, I was looking for it. Oh, it was in the gear.
It's in the gear. It's in the drop down in the gear list down below.
Oh, I'm sorry. I looked right at that and I didn't see it.
There, right there.
Do we get a
in
thing
the
of
bottom
importance,
right.
or is that something?
It's
Yeah, everyone gets a thing of importance.
What's 7 say?
7 is a hurdy-gurdy.
What's a hurdy-gurdy?
A hurdy-gurdy.
Oh,
yes.
hurdy-gurdy.
You crank it and it makes a sound. It's kind of like a mix
Man,
between.
I have so much hurdy-gurdy music to send you.
They are large and unwieldy, Ross. They are not easy to tote around.
Well, this
feel like
guy, let me tell you,
I mean-
this is your guy. He was born for the hurdy-gurdy.
I think you need a monkey now. I don't know.
Like in, what was it, Vivo, that Lin-Manuel cartoon?
Yeah. All right, Crystal, did you get your distinctive flaw and physical ailment?
Yes, they are just like paired so perfectly. My distinctive flaw is hedonistic, and my physical ailment is that I'm so good looking people are jealous.
Nice. That is
That's
on.
amazing.
All right,
That's
idiosyncrasies
so perfect.
and unfortunate incidences and conditions.
That's a physical ailment, being hot.
Because it's a nat 20.
Yeah, it's number 20. It's the only one that doesn't suck.
I'm experiencing
Two
resentment.
more d20s, please.
You make sure everyone else knows it.
This is amazing.
I'm having a lot of fun already. I hope you guys are too.
Yes, I'm gonna have to sit down after the session and figure out, because I've got just a real weird conglomeration of traits for this poor person.
And then the other one's 5.
I believe Ross shared in the Discord a fillable version of the character sheet too, where you can
Ah,
stuff on digital.
Thank you.
I haven't seen it yet though, so I don't know how easy it is to use.
It is handy.
It
In my
is.
experience with things that Ross has shared with me, they are historically good.
It's a little bit of a pain to save because it's a PDF, so you got to go time to save a PDF somewhere. But otherwise, it's all everything you'd want is there.
Nice.
Literally, these idiosyncrasies are so good. Like what's the second page? So the white page is idiosyncrasies. What's the beigest one on the right?
It is unfortunate incidents.
Unfortunate incidents.
And conditions.
Okay.
It'd be something that happens.
These are so good.
Crystal, what'd you get?
I got my idiosyncrasy is that I collect something and I talk to my collection. They are my friends.
Okay.
And then I rolled a nat 20 for unfortunate incidences, so I died once already, but hell didn't want me.
Welcome to the dead
Wow.
team.
So
I know, the dead crew.
we have a vampire and 2 people that were dead, and a sorcerer who's definitely going to die. This is great. This is really.
We have 2 people who've lost their entire crew 3 times, and 2 people who've successfully died.
Was there is the point of this game for us to be good pirates?
No.
No.
The point of
No.
this game is literally, I want to see when we take a fire that is a crew of pirates and we put it in the middle of a terrible sea storm and the flame is snuffed out and the fire is relit and the flame is snuffed out and the fire is relit and the flame is snuffed out and the fire is relit until there's nothing but these embers left, and we kick that last ember, what those sparks ignite. Like that's I want like the last hurrah of this crew
It's
to try
like
at
Oregon Trail, but you start with syphilis.
Yes, basically.
Great. Love
I want
that. Thank
this
you.
game. This game is basically going to be like, what does this crew do in its last breath? Is it successful or is it not? Because they have had a very hard life, as your characters are easy to see. All right, flag of importance, a T100.
70.
I got the the lost journal of a dead explorer.
Nice.
What'd you call my weapon again?
A belay pin.
A belay pin. Oh, that makes sense because it's like belaying in rock climbing.
Excuse me.
Or a wooden spoon if you want one.
I'm gonna go with the belay pin. Yeah.
It was a wooden knife, not a wooden spoon.
It's a wooden knife, which is
It
worse.
feels less useful than a wooden spoon. At least you can use a wooden spoon for things.
Yeah.
A wooden knife is like, oh man, like imagine getting stabbed with something that somebody whittled.
I hope you're ready for a really large splinter.
Yeah, just enough to break skin and make you itch a little bit.
No, we get it, guys. We get it. There's no weapons for.
No, this is
Those
gonna go
sorts.
the whole time, Joe. We're gonna keep doing this. This is how this works.
I'm here for it.
Did everyone get their item of significance?
I have a compass that does not point north.
Nice.
What?
But
Jack
where
Sparrow.
where
Yeah.
does it point?
Yeah, now we have to follow it. This is our mission.
Hmm.
Funny enough, we'll talk about it after characters are complete. But funny enough, captains. Actually, I'll just go ahead and talk about it now because there's no point not to. Whoever your captain is decided on who rolls the highest presence. At the beginning of the game. And it's kind of like one of those things where players can take the role of captain, like depending on which combat it is. Like every time there's naval combat or something, we roll presence. Whoever's highest like takes the role of captain. It's more than just the title. It's like the role of it.
So, sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
No, you finish your thought. Mine's completely unrelated.
No, just so that's something that we can consider too whenever we're getting into it. Like, if there's somebody that has a really good presence and then they end up being the captain, then that's kind of what they do and how they interact with this crew.
No, this is all really funny because my favorite podcast is called Last Podcast on the Left, and it was unrelated. I wasn't listening because of this, thinking about it, but I just finished a 3-part series they did on Blackbeard.
Nice.
So I'm coming into this just chock full of unnecessary amounts of pirate lore. So I'm very excited.
Nice.
And
I just
choosing a
used my
captain
brother's-
was actually an elective process. It was a democracy on board. The captain's only real role was to make decisions in battle.
So you can roll for your name, but I thought there was another table for names. Actually, I think what might be better if you just use the random generator for names too, because they're pretty good. The random generator that was shared in the Discord to
Yeah.
come up with a name.
Y'all, which sounds better, Bandana Roger or Bandana Jose?
Bandana Roger.
Okay.
You can play Bandana Jose if you want to. I could see that being problematic.
I like Roger just because of Ross, but like that's easier for me to remember, Ross and Roger.
Yeah,
Alright.
I think if Bandana Roger had a bandana made of flag, that would be like, okay, you've succeeded.
Oh, yeah. I have a flag of personal significance. That's the thing I got.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Bandana
Alright.
Roger it is.
All right, everyone feel like they understand the gist of their character and what they have to offer and who they are yet.
How much damage does the large rusted machete do? I missed that.
A D6,
A
just
D6.
two weapons. Yeah.
I did the random generator, and the first one that popped up was Arnud Miracle Gale. we're going with that.
Arnud.
Arnoud. I'm assuming it's French.
Again, I feel like I'm getting on the nose with my vampire. They're like Frutos Red de Morbi.
Oh my
Oh,
goodness.
gosh, that's amazing.
Red.
Okay, what was it again? Something red?
Frutos. 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 De Morbi. Demoreby.
That's great. And Joel, what was your character's surname?
Gale, Gayll,
Gayll. Nice.
which fits well with considering how many ships have sank under
Ross, are we going with Roger or Jose?
I think I'm missing. So which one is there? Like one that's meant to be like a first name or something, or do you just pair them, or what do you do?
Are you talking about like this table? This table is like specifically for like naming NPCs on the fly.
Oh,
That's what I thought there was a table for the characters, but I don't remember where it is, and this PDF takes forever to scroll. So I said just use the character generator, and that'll give you. A name.
Okay. Well, let me look at the character generator.
Yeah. The character generator has names, stats for the ships.
No, that's done.
Treasure maps.
That's done. That's done. That's
Ross,
done.
you were supposed to get the perfect name on the first draw. Everyone else did, but
That's done.
Really killing us here, Smalls.
That's not gonna work. I mean,
Just
this one's pretty good, I guess. Noah the Claw Rest. I don't know. No, this one's better. Lois Scalby.
Lois.
The beard.
That's great.
Lois.
Such a fan.
Lowe's beard. The beard Scalby.
The beard. I feel like you have to go get your Fagrin beard and put it back on.
Dude,
I have the Fagrin beard, but it's real now.
And I think his real beard's longer.
I think you have to put the fake beard on top of the real beard. I feel like that's the only way to do it.
as a person with a beard, that sounds like absolute hell on earth.
Your face is extra warm and humid.
It's just hot and itchy and God, the worst.
I wouldn't
Lowe's
know. I
the
can't
beard
grow back
Scalby.
beard.
It's spelled Loes, whatever that is.
Scalby. Great. Crystal, did you get a character name yet?
I did. Julia Salty Burnett. Birnet.
Salty. She's salty, she's spicy, she's a lot of things.
There's so many things. And the name generator that you're looking for in the PDF is on 108, just in case you ever need it.
Hey, 108. Hey.
There's one in the...
Yeah, you can roll a D66 to name.
That's 129. Where's the page number at?
I'm so stoked to get the physical copy of this book. This is beautiful. This is
I like there's
like I feel like I would have paid way just for the quality of artwork here.
Mhm.
Like every
Mhm.
page, there's no filler
Oh, that's
pages. Every page is gorgeous, and I would have paid way more than $35. Like this feels like a $70 book.
Is it 35 to get the PDF and the hard copy?
Yeah,
That's happening.
with tax, it ended up being like 43 or something like that. But like tax and shipping and handling and stuff, you're pre-ordering the book because the Kickstarter campaign is done, but I guess they haven't shipped it. But you immediately get a download link for the PDF.
Right.
For those
Unreal.
to set expectations. Kickstarter takes like years to finish, so like you'll buy it and then you won't get it for a long time, but you'll have the PDF.
Oh no, I backed a game. It's a combination of D&D and the drinking game Quarters.
Hmm.
I backed it like 6 months before the pandemic started, and I got it a few months ago
Yeah.
Yeah.
because of
I
supply
backed
chain in China.
Weird Tales with DCC. I backed, I think it was 2018 at least, if not earlier, that I backed the thing, and I got it last week. So.
Wow.
Oh, I see the name table. That's cool.
Yeah, it took me forever to find it, but
D66? How do you roll a D66?
you roll 2d6 and you treat it like a d100.
Gotcha. That
Like
makes sense.
one's the 6 spot, or yeah, one's the 10s and one's the, and yeah, it's weird. It took me a while to get used to it too, but it's actually kind of intuitive too.
No, now that you explain it, it totally makes sense.
Um,
I've just never seen that dynamic before.
so at this point, Crystal, did you buy the PDF too, or are you just going?
I did.
Okay.
No, I bought it like 5 minutes ago.
Nice. I'm glad. That takes a lot of pressure off of me then, because you guys can look at it at your leisure and do it. I think the only one who doesn't is Caleb, unless you also have caved and bought your own.
I haven't
I'm
bought it.
willing to be the resident poor person.
All right. I fully stand by your decision to not invest in a game that you haven't played yet too.
The nice thing about that though, Caleb, is you can literally just message any
Mhm.
during the game. Like
Yeah.
you can put it in the
And
chat,
you're
and
morally
one of us.
obligated to help me.
Yep.
But Caleb, because I know I'm gonna specifically give you only. Well, no, I'm gonna toss a coin on my end, and if it's heads, I'm gonna give you the right answer, and if it's give you your answer. Just so you know.
So as far as naval combat goes, this is probably the best system for naval combat that has existed. However, I have been playing a pirate themed D&D game for almost 3 years now, and I have gone through countless renditions of my own homebrew rules to try to make something equivalently this nice. And thus, I have so many variations of how the rules play out in my head that naval combat is almost completely ruined for me. So I'm sorry for spoilers, but we're not going to use any of the naval stuff because I'm just like, wait, how does this work again? And I just don't want it, and we're just not going to use it. We're just going to hand wave naval combat. It's never as intense as I want it to be. It always ends up being stagnant in some ways, best way I can describe it. But however, that being said, there will be sea travel. And whenever sea travel happens, we can roll for mystic shanties if we want to, which can be fun. You can roll and see if you get a positive effect or a negative effect, depending on how well or terribly you sing the songs.
That's all Ross this game.
That's all Ross. He is our musician after all.
I just
I
fart
can't
and
wait
and
for
go like
Ross
this
with
though.
the hurdy-gurdy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Awesome. Well, we have characters. We have the general premise of we haven't gotten into my setting. So Pirate Borg is supposed to be set in the dark Caribbean, which is like a parallel universe Caribbean area where things worse. We're not playing in that setting. We're playing in my homebrew world, the Mythic Isles, which has been redeveloped countless times in my existence as a world builder and someone who daydreams a lot. the Mythic Isles, as I have used it for D&D, has been explored pretty thoroughly in 2 separate hemispheres, and I don't think that Pirate Borg would have fit perfectly into it, because it's so much darker and has like literally like the Prince of Darkness and the ancient ones. Thus, it's like I made a separate demi-plane within my world of where this place takes where this game will be. It's called the Evershade Isles, and think of it like an archipelago of islands surrounded by mists and clouds, and sailors can go off into these mists and think of it more of like a not as much as a narrative boundary or like a gamified boundary, but more of like a stepping off point into unknown, and that hero's journey type of elevation to whatever comes after life or whatever comes after this step in the journey, and that last step before you've been the furthest you've ever been, kind of thing. And oftentimes within the lore of the Evershade Isles, ships will go into these mists and then come back empty. The ships themselves come back empty with no crew aboard. And so there's all kinds of tales to explain what happens out there and why the ships return. And I kind of leave that up to you to decide of how your character thinks or reacts to the world that they are in. You might have been born into the Evershade Isles. You might have been from some of the other isles within the Mythic Isles that you have since been trapped here in the Evershade, and you might have different thoughts and opinions on it. However, that being said, it is a if you have played in the Mythic Isles, I know some of you have. If you have played in the Mythic Isles, it is going to be different in tone, and the gods as you know them will be different, or non-existent. So keep that in mind. This is a demi-plane within that world, so there's that going on. So the gods don't really have agency here. For those who haven't played in it, I think your typical like Peter Pan, Neverland kind of vibes. You have this like, where are you? I don't know, kind of existence. Like we have general directions, like second star to the right. That's how you get there, kind of thing. Navigation would be something that we can dive into of how it exists here. But the main story for us is, let's see, I'm gonna go ahead and stop screen sharing because I don't need to, because you guys all have your own screens now, and most of you have their own PDFs, and we're not looking at the PDF anymore. But where we are starting tonight is, or next time rather, is in this Pirate's Cove, where you have met the end of your rope. I imagine like the last captain of your crew has just died. Maybe you guys had this major loss where your ship actually sank, and you've ended up in this Pirate's Cove where all the pirates hang out. Probably on the run from the government for various reasons. I mean, first of all, you're pirates. Second of all, you probably stole something or failed to steal something multiple times. The government in this setting is called the Marble Dawn, the Marble Dawn Empire. And like real quick, does anyone have any questions about the setting? Like any specific things that they're thinking about? Like, hey, does this setting have this or X or Y?
I actually
My
am
clothing.
on. Oh, go ahead, Jay. Oh, sorry.
Yes,
Russ.
I have a question. We have a clericy dude who has a deity. Question mark. What's
Are you
his
asking if we have a
deity's?
cleric?
No, we do, and he
Yeah.
follows some power. What does that look like? Who's he?
Yeah,
he
who's the
following?
Prince of Darkness in this setting? First-
Yes, I have the answer for you. The answer for you is a deity known as Kroll. Croll. Kroll is a forbidden god in most of the religions within the Evershades. He is the god of wrath. But he's also the symbol, as you would know as someone a patron of him, he's also the symbol of inner struggle. And I think what you would be connected to him the most via your vampirism. And maybe you have some type of moral compass deep down that never points true north, which I think there's a lot of irony there with your actual broken compass. But I think that's like there's got to be like a deeper tie there. But Kroll is usually depicted as a dog with a fur of smoke. That's kind of like his motif.
That's metal as hell.
Yeah,
I like it. It spits. Yeah.
That's
so
Kroll for you. So he's definitely your patron. That's a
Nice.
good question. Any other questions?
I do have one other question. So, as my clothing is an old uniform, who would I have an old uniform of in this setting?
Whatever you think it would be. Like, were you some type of miner in a miners guild? Were you some type of? Did you work for the Marble Dawn before your vampirism? Is that how you gained your vampirism? Did you? Like, what type of? What was your background, by the way?
A sailor.
Sailor.
And
So
3 of my ships sank. So
yeah. So if you were a sailor, you'd probably just have like some typical naval officer. Maybe some type of merchant's guild or something like that nature. Where you just have an officer's outfit. But we can talk
I
about
like
that
that.
too afterwards too. We're gonna put more crunch behind there or more flavor behind there.
Lane, your character may be the coolest randomly generated character that I've. Like, holy shit, dude! You're a vampire who worships a god of darkness who is a dog with a smoke fur. Just the raddest stuff.
All right. Any other questions? Ross, did you have something you were gonna say earlier before you and Lane had that interaction?
Just like I am on the run. I stole a ship.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's how we got the ship, but and the owner of it wants me dead, basically. So
All right. The owner of the ship wants you dead. That's good to know. Yeah, I to me it'd make the most sense if it's like the Marble Dawn is like what your one unified like antagonist. Like everyone agrees that they're against you. But there can be nuanced enemies and allies between there of what you think is, your friends and foe. But yeah, as far as the setting goes, Mythic Isles is definitely a high fantasy, all kinds of D&D races there. This place, they're all humans. There are variations of humanoid, of course, there's, vampires, ghouls, and ghosts and things of that nature. But in addition to that, there are also merfolk. Merfolk come in various sizes, and usually they're like thought of as like cursed or sometimes plagued. Merfolk are also referred to as glubs, as like a derogatory term in the setting. Spellcasters within the setting are called baraki, which is loosely translated from an ancient language, which means warlord. Because like back in the day, sorcerers were like warlords and stuff. But now baraki is kind of like a slang term for any type of spellcaster. So maybe, excuse me, maybe Fructose would be akin to being called a baraki, or maybe not. I don't know what he's into, but that might be his closest connection to what that would be. But there are all kinds of different little nuanced wordings that I have in my setting too, which I'll post after this, of different like phrases and things. But the coins that we use, silver piece is like the most common coin. So if someone says, "Oh, it's going to take 2 coins," they mean silver. They're not going to mean anything else. However, very rarely you might find gold. Gold is kind of come out of custom as it's become rarer and rarer as more ships have sank carrying huge hordes of it. It's becoming harder and harder to find. But a single coin of gold is called a feather. So there's lots of phrases that kind of come from that, like it's gonna be more feathers than I can fly, or, like that's too expensive, or like kind of like along those lines. There's a lot of types of different phrases that people use when they're talking about feathers. They're actually talking about coins. Um, Try to think of other specific things to the setting. I think as the more we all lean into the pirate stuff, the more fun we'll all have. But we have to come up with a ship name or some type of crew name that you guys all identify with. That's the last hurdle for tonight before scheduling.
What did you call that parrot?
It's the onion.
Onions? I guys all can. You guys can share like a group pet called Onions, the featherless parrot. There's
Caleb gets it.
If no one has any fun ideas, then we can
I'm
go
gonna go
ahead.
to the ship name generator portion
Yeah.
of fantasy name
Oh,
generators.
Oh.
Well, there's actually one in
I was-
Borg or
Oh,
Pirate
there's
Borg.
one in the. Well, of course there is.
Yeah,
That makes
yeah, 66.
In my
What
go-to.
what
I was gonna
What's
say, like,
the name of the ship Ross stole?
Well, we got to roll for it. Where's the ship name generator?
It is page 100.
Page 100.
Yes.
Name.
I got
I got Lau's Lament.
Laos Lament. You can go ahead and roll for what type of ship it is. Go ahead.
I rolled again and got Crimson Tempest. I like that better.
Crimson Tempest. Fantastic. Go ahead and roll your vessel class 2, and we'll re-roll a raft because this is definitely a boat of some kind.
I got Tartane. Tartan?
A tartane, yeah, a tartane is a long ship with its masts are lateen rigged, which is so picture like a sloop, but it has 2 masts at least. And it's a very long, sleek ship, which is pretty nice ship. Pretty
I'm
nice
also
ship.
just rolling dice. If anyone wants to roll, I'm just rolling dice
Yeah,
and yelling out what I get. So
Um,
Tartane. Often used for fishing, trading, and rum running. Try and get sails and make it very nimble. It's got a +2 agility.
nice.
Very
Um,
delightful.
Let's go ahead. Caleb, go ahead and give me a D12 for a mundane cargo.
Alrighty, I can definitely do that. I got a 2.
A 2, spices or oils. What kind of spice or
Ooh.
oil were you guys shipping last?
Smoked paprika.
Smoked paprika.
That's so good.
Crystal, go ahead and give us another D12 for any special cargo.
okay.
Also, does anyone have a preference on name?
4.
4. Important prisoners. So
Ooh.
that's it's very unique. Maybe this sorry, did you go with Roger or did you go with Jose?
Me?
Yeah, you.
It's actually Loa's Scalby.
Oh yeah, it was Lois.
L-O-E-S
I'm sorry.
Scalby.
I have to.
We call him Jose.
The beard.
Alright.
Lois the Beard Scalby.
That's right, the beard. Okay, that's what I had the beard, and I was like, I forgot that was. I thought that was Lane's character's name for it.
Well,
And
we
then
have a character named Lois who stole a ship. I would
Yeah.
go with Lois Lament. That's
Ross,
right there.
does the beard, is that because you're known for the beard, or is it because you are married to a woman who is clearly a lesbian and you are her beard?
Joel, stop trying to fit as many lesbians in every time we play together.
I refuse. Lesbians only make things better. I'm gonna put as many in my game as I possibly can.
I concur with that. All right. Getting off topic. Lowe's
They're way
Lament.
cooler than the rest of us.
Lowe's Lament, I think, makes the most sense, to be honest, because I agree. Like, what if it's actually Lowe's Lament? Like, you actually take Ross's character name and make it its Lament, and that's what we rename the ship after it's been bought or stolen, rather.
Okay.
And we have prisoners aboard. So I'd like Ross. I'd like you to decide: are these people that you liberated? Are these prisoners of the Marble Dawn that you have like just like as hostages? Like,
Oh yeah, it's a
who?
press gang. Absolutely.
All right.
We pressed them into service, and they're the ones that are rowing the thing.
Promise I won't eat them.
You
That
beat me
sounds
to the
like
joke.
a disgenuine promise.
That's a good question. Red, did you have you kind of come out as a vampire to the others? Like they all know you're a vampire?
I don't admit it, and like if they ask, I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
But after the
I
first
think-
prisoner disappeared, it's kind of like, you know, we
And
know
yeah,
what's
I'm like,
going
Have you
on
guys
here.
seen what we do? Have you guys seen what we do in the shadows?
that's
Okay, yeah, so it's like very normal human pirate. Just
That's-
it's normal human bartender vibes.
totally the case. That's exactly what I was going for when I was rolled this character up. Like, okay, I guess I'm going to be combining what we do in the shadows and our flag means death. So there's my character.
What we do in the shadows, the show, or what we do in the shadows,
The
The
movie.
show.
Either one. Well, I'm hideously ugly, so I can't. Like, part of me, I don't know if I'm like the what was it the old vampire that
Yes.
Taiki Waititi whatever played on the show. Yeah.
Oh man, I love all of our characters. I love everything. We are running low on time. So the last thing we have to do before we close out for tonight is schedule next session. So do Thursdays work for everybody in the group? Generally speaking.
Generally, yes.
Okay. So tentatively, what I'd like to plan, and sorry if you guys hate that I'm touching my face so much. My nose is getting drippy because I'm down in the basement where it's cold. Let's go ahead and plan for next week, the 28th, and the following week of the 4th. And we'll go ahead and set those dates now. Then, as time progresses, if work or family or something comes up where you're not going to be able to make it, let's go ahead and try to reschedule for the week after or the week after. And if it's only one specific person that's continuing having issues, then maybe we'll just play without that person.
Well, I already know I should be good next week, but the week after that, I will not be. On the 4th, I'll be on the road on the 4th. So.
Okay, good to know. So we'll plan for the 28th, and then we'll play it by year after that. And on the 20th, we'll probably schedule the next session, which I'm guessing will probably be the 11th. But if we have to do on a different day of the week, we can do that too. But Thursdays do work best for me, as I'm also in Ross's game on Tuesdays, and then I'm running an in-person game on Wednesdays. And so I'd like to keep Fridays at least secluded for family, because I work Saturday, Sunday, Monday every week. And I work seconds, so I'm not home with my family. So I need at least one day a week. Typically, I usually have more than that to be with my family, but one day a week for sure to be with my family. So if I have to, I can do Thursdays or Fridays.